Hello there, and thank you for joining me in this screencast. I'm Rex Proctor. This screencast is going to answer some questions from TSG 1899 Hoffenheim. Yannic Hess has asked a series of questions about the workflow and how to think about transitioning from sports code into angles. Obviously, the angles interface is quite different, so I thought I would answer his questions by doing a movie and demonstrating how you do the various things that you would find yourself doing in sports code, how you would those workflows would work inside of angles. So the first question is, our current process is to download matches and put them into packages. Then we cut up the match and we send the clips from this package into our organizer to prepare for our opponent. Right? Pretty common workflow. He goes on to ask, is the process the same in angles? And the simple answer is absolutely the same. I think all the products, have that workflow. You're downloading content from a provider. You're either doing your own marking or you're importing some data from a third party like Opta, or in the DFL's case, they provide all of the match data, which is really good service. So let's just quickly have a look at that workflow. And he asks whether or not it makes sense to create a folder per match. So I'm going to start off by answering that question first and then come back to the actual construction of what you would call packaging in the common vernacular. So I would organize my files week by week, right? So I can go back to week 2 or round 2, whatever the sport is. So that's pretty much what I recommend and what I've recommended for a long time. So here I've got an external drive, and I've got some matches, PL matches, Premier League matches, and I organize those in such a way that it goes week 1, week 2, week 3. It gives me a nice order to it. It's alphabetical, and I can do counts on how many files in there to make sure I have all the matches, and so forth. And then I create a team folder out of that. Now, the real advantage to doing it like this is really felt when you format your hard drives to the Apple file system. So in this case, I've got an external drive. It's 500 gigs, Samsung, beautiful T5. I'd highly recommend it. And you can see here that it's formatted APFS. And the cool thing about Apple File System is it allows you to store the same file more than once. You can duplicate it over and over, and it doesn't cost you any disk space. It's an internal reference or pointer to the file. And no matter what, if you put the same file in folder A and the same file in folder B by just copying it and dragging it, or just option dragging, you can delete it from its original location and it still remains, say, in folder B if I transferred from A to B. So quite a cool concept, and I'll show you how that works right now. Let's go in here and I'll go into the Premier League one. I'm just going to bin this just for demonstration purposes. And you can see here it's 178 gigs free. So I've got a little bit of space on there, but not much. Now let's go and open all these up. So I just select them, and I hit Command O, and then that will bring those into the files list in the left-hand sidebar, right? So now I've got all those, and then I go, well, actually, I want a folder called Chelsea, so it's a little bit easier for the coach to jump in there, and he knows that all the matches are in there for Chelsea. So I'll create a new folder, and I'm going to save that out to the same disk. That's key, because if you're working across volumes, the advantage of the Apple file system isn't felt. So we'll create a folder, and I'll just call it Chi for Chelsea. And now that becomes red. Remember, it's red because it's the focus folder. So if you want to change that, you can hold down Option and double-click on the different folders. But that's where new files are going to be saved. Okay, so let's go through and let's filter for any Chelsea matches, which these happen to be all Chelsea. And I'll grab all of those, and I'll drag those into the Chelsea folder. Now watch how quickly this goes. So let's just go. It's going to take a second because that is a fair bit of data. But you'll see, bam, now they're all in the Chelsea folder in one nice little location. I'm going to hold Option and twirl that down, and then go just twirl down Chelsea. And you can see they're all in there. But the cool thing is, let's look at our file space now. It cost us 0 to organize it that way. And I can simply drag and drop this Chelsea file onto another external drive and give that to another analyst or coach or whoever, and they'll have all the content within that single folder. And you can put in your markups and your composers and all that kind of stuff in there as well. So that's kind of how I would recommend that you do it, because it will take advantage of the filtering loaded and unloaded feature. And be really aware about having a good naming convention that sets it up so that it goes in alphabetical order. Now, I know the guys in Germany always have a good naming convention. I've seen SF underscore week number and then, home and away team. And I've always done it that way. So now we've got, Brighton and Hove Albion versus Chelsea. So I know it's Brighton and Hove at home. And I know it's in week 1. So it's a nice way to, manage your files. Okay, so now let's construct something. So I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm just going to do it on my desktop. I have an actual file from the DFL, so we'll go SF33, and I'll just save that to my desktop. And again, that becomes the focus folder, so we can now start creating content. Let's see what we got here. So we'll take that one. I'll create a new movie timeline, and I'll drag that in, create the angle, and then I'll drag in the XML. Now, there's a question here also in that we do not import the DFL files natively. So that's something that we'll add to the list in our Super Transformer, which is an online website you can use. Currently, we support Opta and Champion AFL data in that transformer. But we will look to do the files from the DFL. We've spoken to them, and they've given us everything except for the files. So we're just kind of waiting on them to approve us as somebody that is allowed to gain access to their data, which is, pretty important thing. All right, so I bring those in, and then I link the video. Now, if you've named the collection properly, you can see what happens. I create the movie collection, and then I drag in the movie, and it automatically takes on the name of the first movie that's dropped into it. So kind of a convenience thing, so I didn't have to do a lot of work in naming that. And then when I dropped in my XML, it took on the name that we give it when we do the transformation from Opta into what is actually the commonly known sports code format. And we can rename the timeline by holding Option, clicking and dragging and linking it that way, and you'll see that will take on the name. So kind of a convenience, sort of thing. And I just want to make a note about the SF underscore 33. That is a really good naming convention, as you can see. And when you get to SF34, so if I add another one, let's create another folder, SF underscore 34, and we'll create that on the desktop. And now remember, that's red, so this is where it's going to be created. I'll create a new movie and a new timeline. And we'll go in here, and we'll grab match 34 or week 34. I don't know what SF stands for, to be honest. And we'll grab that. And we'll put that together. Again, we've got that nice naming convention. So I go Option, click and drag, and make the timeline have the same name. So we've got that. Now, again, since these are both TSG, I'll just create a new folder on my desktop called TSG. Oh, there already is one called TSG. We'll just call it TSG 1899. Okay, cool. So now we've got that. And again, I can just go, oh, I actually want all of these in there. So I'll grab those. And that should copy across pretty quickly because my internal computer hard drive is formatted Apple file system. That happens when you do the upgrade generally from Mojave to Catalina. It will ask you. So when you do that process, if you have not already, make sure that you go ahead and do that. You don't want the old HFS file system because you can take advantage of this, having the same file in 2 locations, not costing you any extra disk space. Okay, so now we've got kind of a working bit. Now, if you have multi-angle stuff, you'll have to drag that in. You'll do the alignment, which there are screencasts around that. And if we need to do any slipping, I just select those and I slip those like this, aligning those, right up to wherever the match needs to start. And always Command Z is your best friend. So you can align all that and align all of your angles, and you're all synchronized and you're sweet and ready to go. Okay, so that is how I would recommend answering that number 1 question. Now, he asked, what about working with the composer? How does that work? So let's just grab some clips. I'm going to split to the right, and I'll create a composer. Now, that's going to be saved in my TSG folder, which is probably the best place to work. I probably wouldn't work in the weak folders because I'm doing a scout against TSG, let's say. So I'll create a new composer, and I'm just going to grab some player clips here. Well, let's just grab some aerials, and we don't have to do players. So I'll just select all those, Option Command B as in boy, and we can bang those in there. And then I'll go, oh yeah, I definitely want this other match, so let's go to this other timeline and go grab the aerials. I don't remember how many I did there. Clearances, aerials to clearances. Option Command B, and you'll notice that that will put that behind there, so it looks for a matching composer topic and pastes those in there. And the original one, if you're just quickly doing it, you might want to set up a template, which is one of the questions here, so I'll do that really quickly as well. So I'm going to save the template, though, in the home folder. So let's do this. Let's target our home folder, so it's the focus folder. We'll add a composer, and I'll just go topic, 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 and then I'll go to the top one, and I'll go Rex, and I just hit tab, and it takes me to the next one. I'll go John, tab, Tim, tab, Mike, tab, Carles, tab, Timo, tab, Joe, tab, Philip, with 2 P's, and there we go. So now I have this composer, and I'll just call it template, and that's done. So you'll see that will be in my home folder. Let's look at just loaded things. This loaded feature is actually really quite cool, and I'm going to go over a little thing with that. So now I've got the template, and all I need to do is just go duplicate, boom, and that will duplicate it. At least it should have. Oh, no, because it's not loaded. Remember, this gets me all the time. It's not loaded. There's my template 2. I'll give that a name, and we'll call this Hoffenheim edit. Save that, and then I'll just move that into my Hoffenheim folder, and then I'll close it here. We don't need it anymore, and then I can drag that there, and I can go in here and say, oh yeah, I want this clip, copy that to an existing in the edit. Let's do existing one to topic in edit, and I want that to go to the Rex, and bang, that will go into the Rex one. So you can just reuse that, duplicate it, drag it in, you know, and so that would be the answer to number 6 in Yannic's questions here. All right, something I want to cover off in the composer. Let's see. So I'm going to create an empty tab over here, and we'll just go to the right, and I'll do my composer here. And I'm just going to go grab some clips from the back one here. So let's just grab all the aerials, for example. Right click, and we'll copy those into my Composer 212, just straight into that topic. And there they are. And then when I drag it, it will look to open up that file. So I can go, let's go grab them from the other match. I'm just going to grab a different color. Let's grab some yellow ones because that'll look nice. Option Command. No, we don't want to Option Command because it's in the other view. So we'll go to our Composer 212, and I'll bang those at the end of it. So there you go. And now I can work with this. If you wanted to share this content, just the composer and the actual movies, the person you're going to share it with needs to have all of the movies. So what we'll do is we'll just get rid of this. Once I put together the composer, all I need to do is share this, right? So I just need these 2 movie collections and this composer. So this is where the loaded comes in handy. I select loaded, and then I can see all the files that are open. I'll go create a new folder, and I'll say, call it coach, because that's who I'm going to send this stuff to. Remember, that's red now. Doesn't really matter for this. But now I can select those exactly the ones that I want, and I can drag those into the coach folder. And watch how quick this goes. Now remember, it's not loaded, but look how quick that was. So now I can just give that to coach, and I'll just prove that that will work. Close that off, and I'll just go to the coach folder, and we'll whip that open again. And it will open those up to the right. You can see that's opening. When I go to the next one, bam, that's open. Now we're going to do some convenience features to make that process easier. But when you think about it, all the nuts and bolts are there, you know, to do that process with relatively little amount of pain. All right, I think that answers question number 1. In the composer, is it possible to have a title? We don't auto-generate titles. There is a feature for that. But what our users commonly do is use Keynote, and they'll create a keynote ahead of time. And they'll have all their slides. So title 1. Add a slide, presentation, title 2, and just double check if you're not using the latest that the document is 16 by 9, not 4 by 3. And we take that and we drag that in for our title, and that is editable in terms of the length. You can simply hold shift, click and drag, and you can change the duration. You can see the duration is being changed up here, or right here I mean. So if I want that to be 2, I can set that to 2. There also is a preference that's hidden in our preferences that you can set that so it always makes it 2 or always makes it 3 seconds long, whatever it is. And now you can see that that title will play for that duration. Just as a tip, remember Command right, tap will hide and close the inspector on the right hand side. Command left will do the same for the files list. I always like to mention that because I don't think people realize that. Another one, tap control will show and hide the hover. That can be very annoying when you're trying to edit things because it's popping the mouse all around. So control will hide that so you don't have to see it. Okay, is it possible to save clips and send them to a colleague? I think that last little bit shows that off, and we've covered off the template. Before I wind this up, I did realize I did miss one of the questions that Yannic asked. He said, in sports code, I can create databases, for example, to archive training session or prepare our opponent's corner free kicks, etc. Is there a tool and angles to organize clips in a clear form? I've attached a photo, which is a photo of a sports code database. And yes, we do this. We call it archiving. And I'll demonstrate that really quickly. It's super duper easy. Let's open up this stuff. Let's see. Let's go into this and that. And specifically, you asked for corners, so let's do this. So there's a couple ways you can do it. It depends on how visual you want to be. So I'm going to put this in my TSG because this is going to be a database. As a lot of people call it. We again call it archive. This is going to be an archive that's related to things that Hoffenheim are doing. So I'm going to show the fun visual way. So I'm going to split this to the right, create a new movie, create a new timeline. Please note that we are saving those in the TSG, so that's the focus folder. I'm going to keep saying that. And then I link. Oh, actually, let's give this a name. You always want to name the thing. So we'll just call this TSG archive. And when I link this with an option, that will then name it. So that's cool. So you can see that that's here. And I want to take the corners. All I do is select those, and this will respect filtering as well. So you can filter for things and then select, and then you can archive. And then this icon here will take any of the selected clips and archive those to the selected timeline. So you can do it like this. So you don't even have to have it open. I can just go bang, and you'll see that that will copy, and then that updates. You can do it a little more visually. Let's go to the next file. Let's grab this one. Now note that I'm working across folders. Not a problem. Not a problem at all. So there's TSG Hoffenheim corners. Let's go find the corners if they had any in this match. Corners awarded. They didn't have any. They actually didn't have any that are in the same. Yeah, they didn't have any. Well, that's interesting. as according to Opta anyway. But let's grab that and we'll just archive that. You can do it this way. You can archive going that way as well by just drag and dropping and doing a nice visual. And we'll zoom that out. Remember, Command and scroll up and down is zoom. And now we've added those together. And you would continue to build. One of the neat things you can do, though, is you can grab this, and if I hold Command, you'll see that the tip of the arrow changes, and it has a little arrow pointing to the left, and that will prepend the clips into the archive. So the beauty of the archive is you're basically taking, you're cutting all the content out of the movie and making it much smaller and portable. And then what a lot of people do is they'll create these archives and then continually add to it across the season. So they might have all their set pieces and they keep all that in one spot, and then they can create composers from that and do that that sharing bit where you grab the files that are loaded and then drag those into a folder, then share that folder out. So, okay, so that's actually the final piece to Yannic's questions. Thanks again for listening.